Hello everyone. I have been reading web novels from the past 5 years and therefore I consider myself an avid reader of web novels. So I want to discuss with you some what is a web novel, and I want to share a web novel that I personally like and I have been reading it for past 1 year. Its name is Mirror Legacy. So let's get started. First of all, what is a web novel? A web novel, as the name suggests, is a novel that you can find on website, and on any website. Basically, there are some famous websites like Wuxia World and Webnovel. There you can go and you can you can read novels either, or you can register yourself as a writer and start writing your own novel. Because the bar of the criteria and the bar of entry is very low, the toll of entering is very low, so many novice, many unqualified writers also start writing these sort of web novels, and some people use chat gpt and other bots to write novels for them. Therefore, the average quality of web novels suffer. The average quality of a web novel is usually lower than the average quality of a typical novel or a light novel, you can say. But even then, there are some web novels which are particularly good. So one of these novels is Mirror Legacy. So Mirror Legacy is a Xianxia web novel. Xianxia basically is a Chinese genre in which a character cultivates his inner self in order to gain immortality. In these sort of novels, you will find elements of fantasy, magic, demons, mystical creatures, and other such things. So, some particularly famous examples of such novels are the Journey to the West and Chinese Paladin. So, these are some famous examples. So let's talk about why Mirror Legacy is great according to my opinion. First of all, it is very unique sort of novel. You see, in a normal novel, you have a main character and you see and experience the whole story according to his experience and his views. But in Mirror Legacy, there is not just one main character, there are multiple characters which you can consider pseudo main characters. So the story goes as there is an immortal artifact, immortal mirror artifact with a spirit in it, and the spirit of the immortal artifact is actually the main character of the story. But that immortal spirit basically resides with the family and guides that family in their journey in this Xingxia world. And because we experience the story from perspective of dozens of characters, therefore I think this novel is very unique, because I have never read a novel in which the story is shared from the continuously shared from the perspective of many characters. So in this way, this novel is very unique. Secondly, I think that the uniqueness of this novel is its realism. You see, in normal novels or web novels, such novels are usually very unrealistic. When you read such novel, you think that these are novels are written for children or teenagers, and they don't really have any rationale behind them. There is no rational thinking behind the action of a main character. But in contrast to that, the characters and the characters and the plot of Mirror Legacy is very realistic. The characters actually have to face the consequences of the actions that they commit. There is no such thing as plot armor in Mirror, and the political order and the power system of this novel are in perfect sync with each other. This also contributes to its realism. Let me give you an example. For example, in a in a normal fantasy novel, we see that people with superpowers tend to hide themselves from the society, and the general public do not is not aware about such powers. But one wonders, if the general public is not aware of these powers, how is that possible? Because these powers exist from the dawn of the civilization. Even before the dawn of the civilization, these powers are weaved into the very reality of the universe itself. So how does the normal people do not know about them, and how can these people actually hide these powers from the normal people? But in Mirror Legacy, the case is not this. People are aware that these powers exist, people are aware that these people exist, and these people actually shape the world, shape the political order, shape the structure of the world. Another thing that makes this novel unique is its character development. So as I told you before, there are multiple characters whose experience guide us through the storyline and tell us how the story unfolds. So we see characters from their birth to their death. we see, at least I have seen 7 to 8 generations of characters, and as you can see on the screen. And we see that these characters each have different personality, each have a different interest, but one thing is common, that they all prioritize their family interest above their own interest. So that is why the prestige of the whole family increases. And we also have a profound glimpse in the intricate details of fall and rise of political unities and political, even civilization itself. And we see how when people work for a common goal, their family rises, their power rises. But when these people have conflict of interest and they separate from one another, and infighting starts, then the families decline. I know it sounds obvious, but when you actually read it on a paper, when you actually read it in form of a story, then you understand it's important and how. Right, so another interesting point of this novel is its political intrigue. So what I mean by political intrigue, there are different sects in this novel, there are different factions, even there are different races. So obviously there are humans, then there is a dragon clan that rules the beasts, then there are different races of beasts, and then there are demons, the inland demons. Then there are Buddhist cultivator, you can consider them human, but they are a sort of a faction among humans, and they are very their cultivation method is totally different. Then there are people who cultivate a sort of a pure form of cultivation, they are very rare. Then you can see there are devil cultivators, basically they are humans but they cultivate blood chi and they kill humans. So these are different political factions, and they interact in a very realistic way, you see. And this novel focuses on more on showing than on telling. So it will not spoon feed you how the plot is unfolding, how the story unfolds, but it will just give you clues, and you yourself have to figure out what the hell just happened. Sometimes it feels like that this is not a novel, but this is a clever intertwining of different schemes that have taken place in this universe, I mean the universe of this novel. So for example, there is a purple mention realm is basically a very powerful cultivator, and he is above a FE, or you can say foundation establishment realm cultivator. So FE cultivator, a PM or purple mention realm basically approaches an FE or foundation establishment realm cultivator and tells him to craft an artifact for him. And the FE cultivator thinks that it's an honor for him to craft a artifact for a PM level cultivator. FE cultivator pours his whole life, his whole essence, his whole cultivation into crafting a not a PM level but a pseudo PM level artifact. And then the PM returns and he gives him some pills, and he says that take these pills, these will prolong your lifespan. And the FE takes them, and he thinks that the PM has bestowed upon him a blessing, but in actuality it's a curse, because even the life that he has prolonged by consuming these pills, this life will be spent on the same artifact, a pseudo PM level artifact, which is not even worthwhile for a PM, but he will even do this. uh, as the power level increases, the people who have higher powers think of people with lower powers as animals, as cattle that they can slaughter any time they want, just for even the trinkets of benefits, even the little amounts of benefit. So there is another scenario where there is a PM who has a special divine ability. Divine ability is basically a sort of a power that one gains when one become a PM. So a PM has a divine ability in which he can literally fish in the river of fate. He can literally bait people. Let's say that you are a character in this novel and you suddenly got an idea that, let's say that you have an idea that let's head out to the east, and let's say that if there is a treasure in the east and you go to the east, it can be a possibility that a purple mental realm cultivator is baiting you there and you don't even know. So the lower level cultivators don't even know that their thoughts are their own or not. So the free will is questioned in this novel, and this novel shows us what will happen if a higher existence control our free will. And the question of the free will and the question of morality is also considered in this novel, and many characters ask such questions, and we also explore this sort of philosophical undertones in this novel. As I mentioned before, the world and the reality is itself is shaped by the political system. At the highest power levels of this novel, one can change the very essence of reality, one can change even the history that has taken place. So this is very intriguing in my opinion. Another positive aspect of this novel is its writing and pacing. As I mentioned before, in case of many web novels, the writing is very bad. But in this novel, I can see that you can, even if you read, you will see that it looks like it's written by a professional writer. It's not written by a novice writer, so that is a good thing, I think. Another thing is pacing. So the pacing of this novel is not very fast, neither very slow. It's just the right pacing, the right balance, and the pacing is consistent. So it's not like the novel is very slow at the start but becomes fast and then slow. It's not like that. The novel continues at a relatively stable and consistent pace. Alright, let's discuss what are the flaws in this novel. So the first flaw in my opinion, so this is my opinion basically. First flaw in my opinion is its complexity. As I have mentioned before, this novel has lots of factions and lots of characters and lots of generations, and all these things are intertwined. And for a general reader, he has to pause and consider what has just happened and he has to link the events together in order to understand the storyline. Most people can do that, or most people don't put the effort to understand these things. So it's very complex. And the second problem in my opinion with this novel is its translation quality. Although its translation quality is not bad, but I think that a novel of this caliber deserves a good translator who can translate the nuances and the technical details, or no technical details, the cultural cues of this novel into the English language, which a common English understanding person can understand. Basically, as I mentioned before, this novel is written in a Xianxia genre, and this novel takes cues from Chinese culture, Chinese literature, and Chinese mythology. So a normal person who does not understand Chinese mythology or Chinese culture, it is very difficult for him to understand this. So I think it's the responsibility of a translator to translate it better, so that even a normal reader, a non-Chinese reader, can understand it. In my opinion, the translation quality needs an improvement. So let's see whether you should read it or not. I think that if you are looking for a fast paced novel in which you want dopamine rush, you want a novel which gives you satisfaction, then you should not read it. But if you want a slow paced novel, a novel which forces you to ponder, which forces you to wonder, which forces you to think about what just happened,